For 38 years of my marriage, my husband, Thomas Reed, went to the bank every Tuesday at exactly 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Rain, heat, illness, none of it mattered. He never missed a single Tuesday. It became so normal that I stopped questioning it, the way you stop questioning gravity or the passing of seasons. When I did ask, he smiled, kissed my forehead, and said he was keeping our future secure. I believed him without hesitation. Thomas was an accountant. Numbers were his language, structure his faith. I trusted him the way you trust something solid beneath your feet, a foundation that never wavered, even when storms swept over the roof. Our life had its small rhythms: breakfast at 7, walks in the park on Sundays, grocery shopping together every Friday, and each of them felt anchored by his presence, by the invisible assurance that he was always a step ahead, always managing what needed to be managed. The day he died, I was at the grocery store, standing in the produce section, carefully choosing avocados, pressing them gently with my thumb the way I always did. The smell of fresh vegetables, the hum of the fluorescent lights above, even the faint scent of bakery bread, all seemed ordinary, normal. My phone rang. It was my son, Mark. His voice was flat and controlled, like he was afraid emotion itself might cause damage. He told me my husband had collapsed at work and that I needed to come to the hospital immediately. By the time I arrived, Thomas was already gone. Massive heart attack, the doctor said. Quick and painless. People later told me it was the kind of death Thomas would have preferred. But in that moment, I felt only emptiness, a strange suspension of time, as though the world itself had paused and left me suspended in a bubble of disbelief. At the funeral, I didn't cry. I stood next to the casket, accepted condolences, nodded at familiar faces, and felt strangely detached from the scene, as if I were watching someone else's life. Friends whispered that I was in shock, that grief would come later. But the truth was stranger and harder to explain. Beneath the numbness, I felt relief. Not relief that my husband was dead, but relief that something heavy and constant inside me had finally loosened. I could breathe again, even though I didn't yet understand why. The years of unquestioned obedience, the quiet acceptance of his routines, had left their mark. I remembered the subtle tension beneath his calm smiles, the quiet way he corrected the checkbook, the way I always assumed it was normal that I never saw the full picture of our finances. 3 days after the funeral, a letter arrived. Plain white envelope. No return address. My name typed neatly on the front. Inside was a notice from First National Bank offering condolences and informing me that I was listed as the secondary holder of a safe deposit box registered in my husband's name. A safe deposit box he had never once mentioned in 38 years of marriage. I read the letter 3 times, then a fourth, convinced I must be misunderstanding it. We had shared everything, or so I thought. Why would he keep something like this from me? I imagined him in that sterile bank lobby, quiet and meticulous, hiding a secret that would unravel everything we had built together. That I called the bank that same afternoon. The woman on the phone confirmed it calmly, almost indifferently. Yes, the box existed. Yes, I was authorized to access it. Thursday morning would be fine. That evening, Mark came over. He looked exhausted, older than he should, his shoulders slumped as if he were carrying weight that didn't belong to him. He told me he had been going through his father's office files and that the numbers didn't add up. Multiple accounts, some empty, some closed, others with balances so small they barely existed. Our retirement savings, which should have been substantial, were missing. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, replaying memories of Thomas's Tuesday bank visits. The way he would pat my hand and tell me not to worry about the money, that he had everything under control, and a slow, chilling understanding began to creep in. Perhaps I had never known him at all. That on Thursday morning, I went to the bank alone. I dressed carefully, choosing clothes that made me feel steady, almost armored. The manager led me into the vault and handed me the box. It was heavier than I expected, its cold metal weight settling into my hands. Inside were neatly labeled folders, arranged with the same precision Thomas brought to everything in our life. The first folder contained records of failed investments and enormous losses. Page after page of numbers told a story I had never been allowed to read. Hundreds of thousands of dollars gone. All the accounts were in Thomas's name alone. The second folder was worse. 3 home equity loans taken out against our house. Our home, without my knowledge. Seeing the total debt made my chest tighten, The room suddenly feeling too small. The third folder broke something inside me. Credit cards opened in my name. My social security number. My forged signature. 15 cards, all maxed out. I stared at the documents for a long time, unable to reconcile them with the man I thought I had married. My husband had stolen my identity. At the bottom of the box was an envelope with my name written in Thomas's familiar handwriting. Inside was a letter. He admitted everything. The bad investment. The panic that followed. The lies he told himself and then told me. The loans. The fraud. He said he was trying to protect me, trying to fix his mistake before I ever found out. Instead, he destroyed everything we had built together. That I left the bank calm and focused, my emotions strangely distant, as if they had shut down to protect me. Panic would not help me. I asked for copies of every document and the name of a lawyer who specialized in financial fraud. When I told Mark the truth, he was devastated but determined to help. He sat at my kitchen table, his hands clenched, reading through the copies again and again. My daughter, Anna, reacted differently. She refused to believe it. She told me I was wrong, that grief was confusing me, that her father would never do something like that. I understood her denial, even as it cut deeply. The lawyer, Rachel Moore, was direct and unsentimental. What Thomas had done was financial abuse, fraud, and identity theft. Marriage did not excuse it. The months that followed were consumed by paperwork, phone calls, meetings, and court filings. At 64, with no savings left and my future suddenly uncertain, I started looking for work. I found a part-time job at a small independent bookstore owned by an older woman named Evelyn, who valued honesty over explanations. Each day among bookshelves, the smell of paper and ink, and quiet conversations with strangers brought a strange comfort, a reminder that life could still have rhythm. Even when shattered, the court case dragged on for months. I testified calmly, answering every question directly. I admitted I had trusted my husband. I refused to accept that trust meant consent to fraud. When the judge ruled in my favor and voided the fraudulent loans, I felt relief but no triumph. The marriage I thought I had was gone, replaced by a truth I could no longer ignore. Later, Anna discovered credit accounts opened in her name as well. Only then did she believe me. Only then did her anger turn into grief. Slowly, painfully, we began to rebuild our relationship alongside our finances. At the bookstore, women started talking to me. Quiet conversations turned into shared stories. Evelyn and I started a small support group in the back room. No speeches, just chairs, coffee, and truth. Listening to others, I realized how familiar the patterns were, how often control hides behind the language of care. A year after Thomas's death, I went to a different bank and opened an account in my name alone. I used my maiden name, Margaret Ellis. My life did not return to what it was. It became something new. I learned that love without transparency is not love, silence is not peace, and trust without truth is dangerous. Once I saw the truth, I refused to look away, and that choice saved me.